I woke up 3 weeks earlier than the doctor said I would. My head hurt, my throat was dry, and every part of me felt like it had been dragged across gravel. But I was alive. Barely. The first thing I saw when I opened my eyes wasn't a nurse or a doctor. It was the face of my older sister, Clara. And she looked like she'd just seen a ghost. She dropped the phone she was holding. Her face turned pale. Her eyes widened, and her lips started moving, but no sound came out. "Clara?" I whispered, my voice raspy. "What's wrong?" But Clara didn't answer. She just slowly backed away from my hospital bed, her hands shaking. That's when I noticed the stack of legal papers on the little table beside her purse. My name was on them. My full name. Still dizzy, I turned my head and tried to read. One word leapt off the page. Inheritance. I looked at her again, heart pounding faster than it should have. "What did you do, Clara?" She didn't answer. Instead, she ran out of the room like the floor was on fire. And that was when I knew something terrible had happened while I was asleep. Something she didn't want me to find out. Something involving my money. Now let me take you back to how this all started. 3 months earlier, I was living a simple, happy life. I had just turned 25 and was planning to move into my own apartment. It wasn't anything fancy, just a cozy little one-bedroom place above a bakery, but it smelled like fresh bread every morning, and I loved it. I worked part-time at a bookstore and spent most evenings helping our mom, who had been sick for a while. Clara, on the other hand, had big dreams. She wanted to own a fashion brand. She dressed like a celebrity and spent money like she was already famous. But she had no job. And no savings. Just dreams and excuses. Our mom tried to treat us equally, but everyone knew Clara was her favorite. She could do no wrong in her eyes. Even when she crashed Dad's old car or lied about going to college, Mom would sigh and say, "Clara just needs time to find herself." I never argued. I didn't want to fight. I just wanted peace in our family. Then one afternoon, everything changed. Mom called me into her room. She was lying in bed, looking tired but peaceful. "Sweetheart," she said softly, "I need to talk to you about something important." I sat down beside her and held her hand. "I've updated my will," she whispered. "You've always been the responsible one, and I know you'll do the right thing." I didn't know what to say. I didn't want to talk about money or death. But she continued, "Clara, she's not ready. If I leave it all to both of you, she'll waste it. So I've left everything to you. The house, the savings, even the stocks. I know you'll take care of her if she ever needs help." "Mom, are you sure?" She nodded. "It's not about who I love more. It's about who can handle it." I didn't want to accept it, but I promised her I'd respect her wishes. 2 weeks later, Mom passed away peacefully in her sleep. The funeral was small. Clara cried louder than anyone else, but never stayed long to talk to relatives. She was always checking her phone or fixing her makeup. After the funeral, she disappeared for a few days, then showed up at the lawyer's office, wearing sunglasses and demanding to see the will. When she found out everything was left to me, she screamed. She threw her purse on the floor and stormed out of the office. I didn't hear from her for a while after that. But things got worse. Much worse. One rainy evening, I was walking home from the bookstore when a car ran a red light and hit me. I don't remember the impact. Just the sound of brakes and screaming. Then nothing. When I finally woke up in the hospital, it was already 2 weeks later. The doctors told me I had been in a coma. They said it was a miracle I was still alive. Clara came to visit once, maybe twice. But she always looked nervous. I thought she was just worried about me. I didn't know what she was really doing behind my back. Then I got worse again. An infection. High fever. I slipped into another coma. This time, they thought I might not wake up for months. That's when she made her move. While I was lying helpless in bed, unable to speak, think, or move, Clara went to the lawyer. She told him I wasn't going to make it. She said I had told her I wanted her to have everything. She faked a signature, made up a story, even convinced one of our old family friends to lie for her. She transferred the house to her name. She sold most of Mom's jewelry. She emptied the savings account. She even listed my apartment online as available immediately. She told everyone I probably wouldn't wake up, that even if I did, I wouldn't remember anything. But I did wake up, and I remembered everything. I remembered Mom's voice. I remembered my promise. I remembered the love, the responsibility, and now the betrayal. As I lay in that hospital bed, still too weak to sit up, I watched Clara run out of the room like a thief caught in the act. I wanted to scream. I wanted to get up and chase her. But I couldn't.
Not yet.
So I waited. I listened. I planned. A nurse came in a few minutes later and smiled when she saw me awake. "You gave us quite a scare," she said. "Your sister said you wouldn't make it, but look at you now." I gave her a weak smile and asked for a pen and paper. I had work to do, but before I could write a single word, the door swung open again. And this time, it wasn't Clara. It was the lawyer, and he was holding the new will, the fake will, with my forged signature. And behind him, 2 police officers. They looked at me, then at the lawyer. Then one of them asked, "Are you Victoria Ellis?" I nodded slowly. "Can you confirm that this is your signature on this document?" I stared at the paper, and my heart dropped, because that signature looked just like mine, almost too perfect. And in that moment, I realized Clara had planned everything better than I thought. Now I wasn't just waking up from a coma. I was waking up into a trap. The pen in my hand trembled. My body was still weak, my muscles felt like jelly, but my brain, it was racing. I looked up at the 2 police officers standing by the door. One was tall and broad, his uniform perfectly ironed. The other was younger, with kind eyes that shifted from the paper in the lawyer's hands to my pale face. I swallowed hard and whispered, "That's not my signature." The room went quiet. The lawyer cleared his throat. "Ms. Ellis, your sister Clara informed us that you had expressed these wishes before your accident. She filed the paperwork with my office last week. She also presented a witness statement." My heart pounded. What witness? He hesitated, then said, "Mr. Dalton, your mother's longtime friend." Mr. Dalton? He had been at the funeral, yes. He brought lilies and told me I looked like my mother. He used to bring us candy when we were kids. But why would he lie? Unless Clara had made him, or paid him. The younger officer stepped closer. "Miss Ellis, you were in a coma. You couldn't have signed anything, right?" I nodded slowly. "Right. Do you have any proof of that?" My throat tightened. How could I prove I was unconscious? The lawyer shook his head. "The paperwork was processed legally. If you believe fraud has occurred, you'll need to provide medical records and pursue a formal case." My hands clenched the sheets. "I will." They didn't arrest Clara, but the lawyer and the officers left with copies of the will, telling me they'd follow protocol. I knew what that meant.
Time.
And Clara had already taken everything. 3 days passed. I couldn't sleep.
Couldn't eat much.
The doctors were amazed I had woken up early, but they had no idea how fast I wanted to get out of there. I needed answers. And I needed to stop Clara before she vanished. My phone had been taken, probably by Clara. But a kind nurse named Maribel let me borrow hers during her shift breaks. The first thing I did was search the address of my apartment.
Gone.
Listed as rented. The second thing I did was call the family lawyer, the old one, the one Mom had trusted. He hadn't heard a thing. "No one contacted me about a change in the will," he said. I was surprised when I found out Clara went to another firm. Strange, considering your mother specifically said you were to handle things. Strange wasn't even the word. I asked him to send over a copy of the original will. He promised to help me. "Don't worry," he said. "We'll sort this out." But sorting things out wasn't going to be easy. The hospital was letting me out in 3 days. I had no home to go to, no money. Clara had drained everything, but she hadn't taken my will.
My will to fight.
The day I was discharged, Maribel helped me into a wheelchair. She'd become like a big sister to me during those long, lonely nights. "You sure you'll be okay?" she asked. I nodded. "I need to find her." She gave me a hug and slipped something into my hand. "Bus pass."
Take it.
And be careful. That afternoon, I made my way to what used to be my house. The house where I'd grown up. Where Mom had painted flowers on the kitchen wall and read us bedtime stories when the lights went out. Now, there was a gold mailbox, a luxury car in the driveway, a private property sign near the gate. Clara had moved in. I walked to the front door and rang the bell. My legs were still shaky, but I forced myself to stand tall. A moment later, Clara opened the door. She blinked. Her smile faded. "You're out?" she said softly. I didn't answer. "You're walking?" Still silent. "Look, I didn't know." "You didn't know I'd survive?" Her face twisted. I thought you wouldn't wake up, Vic. I thought it was over." "You stole from me." Her voice turned sharp. "I took what was going to be mine anyway. You think Mom loved you more just because you followed the rules." "I think Mom trusted me," I said coldly. She laughed bitterly. "Well, she's gone now. And you can't change what's already done." I stepped forward, but she blocked the doorway. "You don't live here anymore." I glared at her. "You forged my name. That's a crime." Her eyes darted left and right. "You have no proof." "I will," I said, and I turned and walked away. But inside, I was burning. I knew she wasn't done. She never was. That night, I went to stay at Maribel's cousin's place. It was cramped, but warm. I started building my case, every phone call, every document, every memory. Then 3 days later, I got a message from the lawyer. He had checked the security cameras in his office. On the day the fake will was signed, I was still in a coma. And the video showed Clara walking in with a fake signature already printed on the paper. But the most shocking part? She had someone with her. Mr. Dalton. And behind him, a man in a white lab coat. The lawyer paused the video. "Recognize him?" he asked. I squinted. Then my blood ran cold. It was one of the doctors from the hospital. She'd bribed a doctor. Now, it wasn't just forgery. It was a conspiracy. The moment I realized that, I knew I couldn't wait anymore. I called the lawyer. I called the police. I sent them the video. I told them everything. Then I marched straight to the courthouse to file a restraining order. But just as I stepped outside, ready to head home, my phone buzzed. It was a message from an unknown number. "Stay out of this, or you won't wake up next time." My chest tightened. I turned, scanning the street. Someone was watching me. Someone didn't want me to win. And Clara was just getting started. The message burned into my brain. "Stay out of this, or you won't wake up next time." I stared at the screen, my hands frozen midair. My heart thudded so loudly it drowned out the noise of the traffic around me. The courthouse steps beneath me felt suddenly higher, steeper, like climbing them would mean crossing some invisible line. Someone was watching me. I glanced around. A man on a bench reading a newspaper. A woman pushing a stroller. 2 teenagers laughing near a food truck. No one looked suspicious, but the message proved someone had eyes on me. Clara had gone from sneaky to dangerous. Still, I didn't delete the message. I saved it and forwarded it to the police and the lawyer. If anything happened to me again, I wanted people to know this wasn't an accident. I took a deep breath and walked up those steps anyway. Inside, the courthouse was cold and smelled like paper and old coffee. The clerk at the desk gave me a form to fill out for the restraining order against Clara. When I handed it back, she scanned it and frowned. "You're saying your sister forged legal documents and may have bribed a medical professional?" "Yes," I said. She didn't look surprised. "We see families destroy each other over money all the time. This wasn't just money. This was Mom's last wish. My future. My entire life." I filed the papers and left, but my hands still shook. That night, I stayed up staring at the ceiling in the tiny guest room Maribel's cousin let me use. The wallpaper was peeling. The bed creaked every time I moved. But it was safe for now. I replayed everything in my head. Mom's voice. The promise I made. The car that hit me. Clara standing at my bedside, pretending to care. The will. The lawyer. The threat. And Mr. Dalton. Why would he help Clara? I remembered how kind he'd been growing up. He was practically an uncle. but he had no money. I'd heard Mom talk about how he'd lost everything in a bad investment. Had Clara paid him? If so, with what money? My money? I couldn't sleep. I needed to find him. The next morning, I limped down to the corner diner where he used to have coffee every Thursday morning. I waited 2 hours. Just when I was about to give up, I spotted him across the street, wearing his usual brown hat and sweater. I followed him, not too close. I didn't want to scare him off. He walked to a small apartment building and unlocked the front door with a gold key. I crossed the street and knocked. Nothing. Knocked again. Then he opened it halfway. His eyes widened when he saw me. "Victoria," he said, his voice uncertain. You're awake?" I pushed the door open gently. "Can we talk?" He hesitated, then stepped aside. His apartment was quiet and smelled like old books and dusty curtains. He sat on a chair near the window, gripping the edge like he expected it to fly away. "You know why I'm here," I said. He nodded slowly. "I saw the video, Mr. Dalton. You were with Clara. You told the lawyer I wanted her to have the inheritance." He looked down at his hands. "She said you were going to die, that you didn't want the money wasted, that you told her to take it." "She lied," I said firmly. He closed his eyes. "I know. I knew it. But she gave me money. I needed it. I'm sorry." I stared at him. "You helped her forge a will." He didn't deny it. "I can't protect you," I said, "but you can help fix this." He looked up, his eyes wet with shame. "What do you want me to do?" "Tell the truth." He swallowed hard. "She'll come after me." "She already came after me," I said, and I almost died. He nodded slowly. "Okay, I'll do it. I'll talk to the police." It felt like a small victory, but then I heard the sound. A car screeching to a halt outside, then pounding footsteps. Someone slammed a fist against the front door. "Dalton, open up." We both froze. It was Clara, and she was furious. "You think I won't find out?" she screamed. "You think you can turn on me now?" Mr. Dalton backed away from the door. She kept pounding. "You owe me. Open this door, or I'll..." Then silence. For a moment, we both just stared at each other. Then I crept toward the window and peeked through the curtains. Clara was gone, but a note was taped to the door. I opened it. "You talk and you'll both regret it." That night, Mr. Dalton called the police anyway. He told them everything. How Clara paid him with stolen money. How she showed up with a doctor who swore I'd never wake up. How she laughed while planning to list the house and jewelry before the month ended. The police took his full statement and promised to look into it. But Clara wasn't stupid. She was always 10 steps ahead. And now she knew I had help, which meant she'd do anything to shut us up. 2 days later, I had another meeting with the lawyer. We were planning to challenge the new will in court. He was confident the security footage and Dalton's confession would be enough. But when I arrived at the office, the receptionist looked worried. "Miss Ellis," she said, "there's been an incident." My stomach twisted. What kind of incident? The building was broken into last night. Someone took files, paperwork, security footage. I couldn't breathe. Was my file taken? She nodded. All of it. My knees buckled, and I grabbed the edge of her desk. Clara wasn't just trying to scare me anymore. She was erasing the truth, one file at a time. The air in the lawyer's office felt heavy, like it had been vacuum sealed by shock and fear. The receptionist's words echoed in my head. All of it. The files. The footage. Mr. Dalton's signed statement. Everything that could have proved Clara was a liar, a thief, was gone. I stumbled into the lawyer's office, my heart pounding. He stood at the window, arms crossed, face tight with worry. "She took it all," I said, barely able to speak. He turned slowly and nodded.
"Yes."
"And whoever broke in knew exactly what they were looking for." "I know who did it."
He didn't argue.
"This proves it, doesn't it?" I said. "She's desperate. She knows we're close." He sighed and rubbed his temples. "Yes, but desperation makes people reckless. That makes her more dangerous, not less." We sat down and I tried to steady my breathing. "What do we do now?" I asked. He gave me a grim look. "We rebuild. I'll request copies of everything from the police. You still have the text message she sent, right?" I nodded. "And the security camera footage?" He shook his head. "It was backed up, but the external drive is gone too." Clara had covered her tracks. Perfectly. Almost. "I have one more idea," I said. He raised an eyebrow. "The doctor who signed off on the fake will. I saw him in the video. If I can find him, if I can get him to talk." He leaned back, folding his hands. "It's risky. If he was bribed once, he might not talk now." "Maybe," I said. "But maybe he's just scared, like Dalton was." The lawyer nodded slowly. "It's worth trying. But be careful, Victoria." I started with the hospital. Maribel helped me again, pretending to ask around casually during breaks. One night she called me, whispering like a spy. I found out his name. Dr. Harper. Real name, Benjamin Harper. He worked nights in the trauma unit, but he's not there anymore. My pulse quickened. Where did he go? They said he left about a week ago. Took an emergency leave. No one's seen him since. I had a feeling Clara paid him to disappear, but I wasn't giving up. I started digging. Social media. Old medical board websites.
LinkedIn.
Finally, I found something. A forum post, barely a day old, where someone named Dr. Ben-H was offering private medical consultations for cash. Bingo. The location? A small apartment near the edge of town. The next morning, I made my way there. The building was old, with flickering hallway lights and a buzzer that didn't work. I knocked. Nothing. Knocked again. Finally, a man peeked through the cracked door. Tired eyes.
Stubble.
Worn-out scrubs. Same face from the security video. "Dr. Harper?" I said as calmly as I could. He narrowed his eyes. "Who's asking?" "My name is Victoria Ellis. You remember me, don't you?" He froze. "I'm the girl in the coma. The one you signed a fake medical statement for." He started closing the door, but I stuck my foot in.
"Please," I said.
"I don't want to hurt you. I just want the truth." He hesitated. Then slowly, he opened the door. Inside, the apartment smelled like instant noodles and stress. He motioned for me to sit, then paced the floor. "I didn't know you'd wake up," he said at last. "That doesn't make it right. I was in debt. Medical school loans.
Rent.
Clara offered me 10 grand just to write a short letter saying you wouldn't wake up. That's all. I didn't know she was going to forge the will too. Do you still have anything?" I asked. "A copy of what you wrote? A message from her?" He paused. I deleted everything. My stomach dropped. But he said suddenly, "I had to take a picture of the cash she gave me, just in case." My eyes widened. "Do you still have it?" He pulled out his phone and scrolled, then showed me the screen. It was a photo of a white envelope with cash spilling out, sitting on a table. On the envelope, in Clara's perfect handwriting, were the words, "Thank you, C." That was enough. "If I bring this to the police, will you back me up?" I asked. He looked torn. "If I do, I lose my license." "And if you don't," I said softly, "you keep carrying this." He stared at the floor, then nodded. "Okay, I'll come forward." I stood up and shook his hand. "Thank you." But just as I reached the door, his phone buzzed. He checked the screen and turned white. He showed me the message. "Unknown number, you're next." I didn't need to guess who sent it. Clara knew I'd found him. That night, I stayed with Maribel. We locked the doors, closed the curtains, tried to laugh like it was nothing, but my hands wouldn't stop shaking. Clara was unraveling. Every time I got closer, she clawed back harder. The next day, Dr. Harper went to the police and made a full statement. The lawyer filed for emergency review of the inheritance. It was working. We were winning. Until the news broke. Mr. Dalton was found unconscious in his apartment. Overdose. The police said it looked like suicide. But I knew better. Clara was covering her tracks, one by one, and I was next. The moment I heard about Mr. Dalton, I felt like the floor dropped out from under me. I sat there on Maribel's couch, phone clutched in my hand, staring at the news alert as if I could will the words to change. But they didn't. Local man hospitalized after suspected overdose. Police investigating. I knew it wasn't just some tragic accident. Mr. Dalton was terrified when I saw him. He barely let me in the door. And after he gave that statement to the police, it wasn't guilt that pushed him over the edge. It was Clara. She wanted to silence him, just like she tried to silence me. He's not dead, Maribel whispered from beside me, reading over my shoulder. He's in critical condition, but alive. For now. I nodded slowly, numb. If he survives, he's still a witness. But if he doesn't, then everything goes back to my word against Clara's. And she's already proven how far she'll go. The police agreed to put Dr. Harper under protective watch after he received the threatening message. They questioned him again, recorded every detail. Meanwhile, my lawyer raced to resubmit the petition to overturn the fraudulent will, this time with sworn testimony, the photo of the bribe envelope, and a copy of the message Clara sent me. Still, the court date was set for 2 weeks away. That gave Clara 2 whole weeks to do something terrible. Again. And I had no idea what was coming next. For days passed. Mr. Dalton remained unconscious. The doctors said it could go either way. I didn't leave Maribel's house much. I didn't trust that Clara wasn't watching me, waiting. We had the curtains drawn all the time. I changed the passcode on Maribel's door. I stopped answering unknown numbers. But I still felt like I was being hunted. And then it happened. At 3:42 a.m. on a Thursday, the fire alarm started screaming. Smoke poured into the guest room from under the door. I jumped out of bed, coughing, my eyes stinging. The smell hit me next, plastic, fabric, burning wood. Maribel's voice screamed from the hallway. Fire. Get out. I threw open the window, pulling the screen loose with shaking hands. Flames licked up from below. This wasn't some kitchen fire. This was set. I knew it. I climbed out onto the ledge, heart hammering, then dropped onto the roof of the porch below. Maribel helped me down. We stood there barefoot on the lawn in the middle of the night, watching her cousin's house burn. Her cousin cried into a blanket. Neighbors shouted. Fire trucks blared in the distance. I couldn't speak, but I knew. This was a warning, or worse, an attempt, to kill me. Again. The fire department said it started near the back door. Something about possible accelerant. The police opened an investigation, but of course, no one saw Clara. No cameras caught her. No fingerprints. Just a message. Just flames. Just fear. I sat at the police station later that morning, blanket still wrapped around my shoulders, as one of the officers gave me a pitying look. You really think your sister did this? He asked gently. I stared at him. I know she did. He sighed. It's hard to prove unless we catch her in the act. I don't need proof, I said coldly. I need protection. So they placed me in emergency witness protection until the court date. A temporary safe house. Different town. New number. But none of that made me feel safe. Because Clara wasn't just smart. She was bold. And bold people don't wait for the law to catch them. They make their own rules. 2 days into the safe house, I got the call. Mr. Dalton had woken up. He was alive. And the first thing he asked for was me. The doctors said he was weak, but alert. I rode in silence the entire trip to the hospital. When I entered the room, he gave me a weak smile. I'm sorry, kiddo, he whispered. Don't be, I said, taking his hand. You're brave. She visited me, he said. Right before it happened. Said if I didn't recant, she'd make sure I couldn't talk at all. My throat tightened. She did this to you? She brought me tea, he said softly. She made it look like a kind visit, but I didn't even make it to the door after she left. My heart pounded. Can you tell the police that? I already did. I felt a tear slip down my cheek. For the first time in weeks, I felt a flicker of hope. Mr. Dalton might be enough to tip the scale. Maybe. If Clara didn't act again. The next morning, the door to my safe house burst open. Not with flames. Not with fists. but with the police. Victoria Ellis? I sat up, startled. Yes, you're under arrest. What? For fraud, forgery, and attempted theft of inheritance. My mind went blank. The officer held up a printed email. Clara Ellis has filed charges against you. She claims you faked the will. She says you stole her inheritance. I stood there frozen, trying to breathe. She had flipped the script. Now she was saying I was the criminal. She was trying to win in court before it even began, by putting me behind bars. The cold metal cuffs snapped around my wrists with a harsh click. I stood frozen in the center of the safe house living room, surrounded by uniformed officers who wouldn't meet my eyes. She's lying, I shouted, my voice breaking. She forged the will. I was in a coma. She tried to burn down the house. Ma'am, one officer said calmly, you'll have your chance to speak in court. But I didn't want to speak in court. I wanted to speak right now. To scream, to shake sense into someone, anyone, before Clara erased me completely from my own life. As they escorted me to the police car, my mind whirled. Clara was brilliant. She'd planned every step. When intimidation and threats didn't stop me, she turned the whole story upside down, making herself the victim. By the time we reached the station, I had one thought left in my head. If I don't end this now, I'll never be free. Hours later, I sat in a cold interview room under a flickering light. My lawyer, pale, furious, and clutching a briefcase, stormed in. I just came from the courthouse, he said through clenched teeth. Clara filed everything this morning. Affidavits, statements, even fabricated emails. She claims you threatened her and faked the will while she was grieving. That's insane. She's playing the part of the heartbroken sister perfectly, he snapped. But we have something she doesn't, truth. And now, finally, Dalton is ready to testify in person. And Harper's gone public. I blinked.
What?
Dr. Harper went to a medical review board and admitted everything. Bribe, fake prognosis, all of it. Said he wants to make it right. Hope cracked through my chest like sunlight. Then why am I still here? Because Clara's story came with a video. His voice dropped. She doctored footage of your signature on the will. A full 10-second clip. You at a desk signing. My heart dropped. That's impossible. It is, but it's convincing. So now what? I asked, swallowing the fear. Now, he said, we fight back with something stronger. The next morning, we requested an emergency hearing. Not just to challenge the arrest, but to expose everything. We had only one shot. Mr. Dalton sat in a wheelchair at the front of the courtroom, oxygen tank at his side. Dr. Harper stood behind the railing, hands clasped nervously. And me? I stood next to my lawyer, shaking but still standing. The judge, a tired-looking woman with sharp eyes, stared down at me. Miss Ellis, you've been accused of forging legal documents and attempting to steal your sister's rightful inheritance. Do you have a defense? I don't just have a defense, I said, stepping forward. I have proof. Dalton testified first, voice thin but firm. He explained the bribe, the pressure, the threats, and how Clara nearly killed him. Dr. Harper went next, explaining how Clara approached him, offered him $10,000, and told him to write a deathbed medical letter while I was still alive in a coma. Then came the twist. My lawyer stood up and played a new video. It wasn't the fake signing video Clara had submitted. It was security footage from the building where Clara claimed I signed the will. In the corner of the footage was a calendar. The date on the video? 2 days after I was hit by a car. 2 days after I'd already been declared comatose by 3 doctors. And one of those doctors was Dr. Harper. Clara had faked the video. Her biggest lie had just blown up in her face. The courtroom was silent. Even Clara, sitting smugly in a navy blue blazer, blinked as the judge stared her down like she could see through her skin. Miss Ellis, the judge finally said, the evidence against your sister is clear. I'm overturning the fraudulent will immediately. And as for the charges filed against you, she looked at me, dismissed. The cuffs came off. Tears flooded my eyes. But it wasn't over.
Not yet.
Clara was arrested outside the courthouse.
Fraud. Perjury.
Attempted arson. Attempted murder was still under investigation. Her face, once proud, painted and polished, crumbled as the officers read her rights. She screamed as they pulled her away. This was supposed to be mine. Everything was supposed to be mine. But no one was listening anymore. Not even me. Weeks passed. I moved back into Mom's house, my house. The repairs Clara had made to the place were flashy and cold, but slowly I brought warmth back to it. The kitchen now smelled like cinnamon, not perfume. There were blankets, not velvet throw pillows. Dalton recovered slowly. Dr. Harper lost his license, but gained something else, a clean conscience.
We still talk sometimes.
Maribel? She became family. The kind you get to choose. And me? I started over. But I never forgot. I'd gone into that hospital bed, an ordinary girl, and woken up into a nightmare. But I made it through. Clara never expected me to wake up early. She never expected me to fight. But I did. And I won.